Welcome back everyone to Mount Blade Warband as the Faith Militant. Now today's episode is most likely going to be the most important episode in this series because we will decide the fate of the Seven Kingdoms of Westeros, because today we will have to choose a king to follow. We can no longer fight for ourselves, we must pledge to one of the kings because we have been in a stalemate for a very long time, and it hasn't been going forward, not backwards. We've taken hold from the Ironborn, then it's been taken back from the north. We want to spread the faith of the Seven, and we cannot do it alone. At least I don't think so. We need the second pillar to support us in this. As we know, the faith is one pillar, but the crown is the other pillar upon which the world rests. And therefore, we must crown a king, or we must at least follow one of the pretenders in order to restore order to Westeros. Now, at the very end of the last episode, we heard news from a pretender rising in the east, calling the banners of the Golden Company and setting sail to reclaim his birthright. And we know that this so-called Aegon Targaryen, presumed son of Elia Martell and Rhaegar Targaryen, has the support of Doran Martell, and that he has already managed to capture the Arbor in the south of the Reach. So this is one pretender that we need to discuss, and the second is one that we have fought alongside for a very long time. King Renly Baratheon, as you know him, and I mean, he has joined us in our campaign, or we have joined him in his campaign against the Ironborn and the Northerners, and we have actually fought many battles, you know, side by side, his lords. In fact, it goes even further than that. We fought together against his demon brother, Stannis Baratheon, and even before that, we fought against the Lannisters. In fact, we actually joined the Lannisters for a short amount of time fighting Stannis, but still, for the most part, Renly Baratheon seems like a really good candidate, but he is gay, and that is obviously a problem. I have once again discussed this with the High Sparrow, and he says that it certainly is against what is written in the seven-pointed star, and as we all know, this is the will of the Seven, and we cannot have a king that goes against the will of the Seven. That simply is not possible. So we have a king who we know is capable of good deeds, who is fighting the right people, but has, well, is somehow still going against the faith of the Seven. And then we have this other pretender who we know nothing about, who might be a liar for all we know. And therefore, this is something that the Council of the Most Devout will have to decide. I cannot decide it myself, the High Sparrow cannot decide it myself, not even Septa Unella in her infinite wisdom can decide it herself, but she will obviously take in your considerations, the considerations of the common people of the Faith Militant, and yeah, we will have to find a king together, a worthy king. But I have been speaking of only two pretenders, two true pretenders that would really, would really make sense for our cause, right? I mean, there's no need to talk about Robb Stark, Balon Greyjoy, or Mance Rayder. They're all kings that we can easily dismiss. But still, there are more than just two pretenders. Now, it was at this very place, just outside of Dragonstone, that we first knighted Sir Aemon the Humble. Now, he came to us as a squire. He basically just popped out of nowhere and decided to join us. It was the High Sparrow who introduced him to us, and who told me that I should take him on, train him in the way of sword and lance, and maybe even more importantly, train him to be a devout follower of the Faith of the Seven. And I think we did that. I mean, he earned his knighthood without a doubt. He's one of our strongest fighters, one of the most capable warrior sons that I have seen in a while, and he has read the seven-pointed star in its entirety, and he hasn't just read it, he also acts like it. I mean, his nickname is Aemon the Humble, not for nothing. Even still, even despite that we have knighted him, we never really talked about his background story like we did with other characters such as Septon, Jonathan, or all the other possible members of the Council of the Most Devout. We talked about how they came to serve the Faith Militant, what their deeds are to the Seven, but we didn't do that with Sir Aemon. And you're also probably wondering, well, what does all of this have to do with the question of kingship? Well, as many of you have pointed out, as soon as we had Aemon introduced, he doesn't look like the usual Westerosi. He doesn't look Westerosi at all. In fact, he looks foreign, and the reason is that he was born in Essos. But you know what? I don't want to get ahead of myself. I think I will let Aemon explain what he is and where he is coming from. To all those faithful and beyond, known to most as Sir Aemon the Humble, I have traveled and fought for the faith under the guidance of the Father above in form of the High Sparrow. One lesson I have found to ring the loudest and most truthful is that the world rests upon two pillars, the faith and the crown. Without one or the other, the realm plunges into chaos. Chaos is seen after the usurper Robert Baratheon passed on, leaving the Seven Kingdoms to the false king, Joffrey Lannister. Removing the stranger's shroud, I offer myself for the responsibility of kingship, as any true king should. I am Aemon Targaryen, grandson of Maegor Targaryen, the son of Aerion the Brightflame. Maegor, as but an infant, had his birthright stolen from him in the Great Council of 233 AC for the crime of being a child and holding the name of a past cruel and sinful ruler. By right of birth in the main line of the Targaryen dynasty, I hereby lay claim to the Iron Throne and the Seven Kingdoms of Westeros. May the gods find my claim just and support me as the pretender Aegon of Essos is a mama's farce, a fake dragon, and a puppet of the Golden Company. Let all true men declare their loyalty. So there you have it, Aemon Targaryen, grandson of Maegor Targaryen, who was overruled in a great council of 233 AC and dismissed as king for whatever reason. We do not know, but this way Aemon never got to become king. He obviously is the preferred candidate of the High Sparrow, and I must say he was exceptional as a squire. He was very devoted. He was a great squire, and he is an even better knight. So even though Sir Theodan is obviously not a member on the council, so he doesn't have a voice, he obviously does support Aemon and his claim as well. But this is something that the Lord Commander and the High Sparrow cannot simply decide alone. If we want to succeed, if Aemon's claim is to be successfully pressed, then we need the entirety of the Faith Militant behind us. So the Council of the Most Devout will have to decide this, and also you guys will have to make up your mind as to who we want as king. Now, Aemon, he does not have the name Humble for no reason. Even though he claims, or he wants to be the king, he offers himself to that position. He did say that no matter who we choose, he will stay a member of the Faith Militant. So even if we choose that Aegon that he called a fake dragon, if we think that he is the rightful king, then he will follow the Faith Militant. And that is just something very humble of him to see. We don't know what the others will do if we were to choose Aemon. So we'll have to see. But as I said, before you guys can actually make a decision, we need to talk about all of the options we've got available, and we need to talk about them in detail. So let's quickly leave the camp here, and let's really assess this situation. So let's first start with our own holdings. Now we own Dragonstone, which happens to be the ancestral keep of House Targaryen. So this is a great position to start off. We've also got Berengar Perrin, who is the Lord of the Claw Isle and also has control over Land's End and Krakla Point. This is not a particularly powerful region, but I should mention that these provinces right here are strong and fierce Targaryen loyalists. They have always been Targaryen loyalists, and they've never stopped being Targaryen loyalists. So, getting them to side with us is going to be relatively easy if we either support Aegon Targaryen or Aemon Targaryen. But even if we were to support Renly, I think they would simply follow us because Berengar is the lord of these lands and he will follow the Faith Militant no matter what. Now, other than that, obviously we have Dragonstone that we have under our personal control, and we hold the town of Duskendale. The people like us, we have liberated them from the oppressors, and we have treated them fairly. I mean, everyone we have conquered, we've treated fairly. We've never plundered anywhere, and also The Septons and the Septri here and other commoners, they sing our name. We're known as a very honorable bunch, I would say, and very generous and charitable. And this obviously would help out the rule of Aemon Targaryen. But if we were to support another claimant, we could help them out as well, because our reputation would then spill into their own reputation as well. But I guess I'm just talking a little bit of nonsense here. So let's assess the situation a bit more. Obviously, these are our own holdings. This is all we have, and if we want Aemon to succeed, then we're gonna be on our own. We may get the Vale to become our ally. I'm not sure if that's possible, but we might be able to convince them to join us. But we're certainly gonna have to fight the Ironborn, the North, and the Riverlords, as we already do, and we're also gonna have to go against the Reach, the Stormlands, and perhaps even more importantly, against this pretender of House Targaryen and his uncle in Dorne. So yeah, that is something that we need to consider. Now, if we were to support Renly Baratheon, who I personally think is not really a great pick, but we should mention him still. After all, he did fight together with us against the Demon King. He's currently fighting against the Ironborn, against the Northerners, and he hasn't really done anything to be particularly sinful, except obviously for his exploit in the bedroom. So if we were to support Renly, we would obviously add our own strength to his. We are very close together, so that would make sense. And we would obviously also have the Reach as supporters. We would have to also fight Dorne and House Targaryen, and we would still be at war with the Ironborn, the North, and the Riverlords. So it wouldn't really change anything in terms of people that we fight. Of course, it would only give us more people that will support us. The problem we have is that the influence over Renly isn't particularly high, because if Aemon is to be king, he has already announced that he would make the High Sparrow his Hand of the King, and he would make Sir Theodan, or whoever will lead the warrior sons after him, the Master of War and the Marshal. So the Faith Militant would have a huge influence over that king, and that would obviously make the life easier for me personally. But if we were to join one of the other kings, for example Renly, we obviously bring a lot more lords that were to support us. Right now we only have Berengar, as I said. So this is one option, and then there is the third option of Aegon Targaryen. Now, he brings the Golden Company. Actually, let me check this out here in the factions. So House Targaryen, we have King Aegon himself. He brings the lords and knights of the Golden Company. I believe John Connington is going to be his Hand of the King, and I do believe that he also brings his own other advisors. So we also wouldn't really be able to have a great influence over him. Now, the advantage of fighting together with King Aegon Targaryen would be that we would only have to concentrate on the Reach and the Stormlands. We would temporarily be at peace with the Ironborn and with the North and the Riverlords, and that would obviously make it much easier to make progress in the Stormlands. And of course, we also have Dorne on our side. But as I said, we wouldn't have very much influence over the king, and maybe even more importantly, we don't know if he is even legitimate. I mean, he claims to have the sword Blackfire, which actually makes it more likely for him to be a Blackfire, even though they were supposedly also all killed. And he also has the Golden Company, so this doesn't really seem like he's a Targaryen. Then again, House Martell is supporting him, so I really don't know what's going on. With Aemon, we know that he's legit because the High Sparrow is vouching for that, and I utterly trust in him and what he says. So we have to make a decision. There are practical reasons to either support Renly or Aegon, but if we really listen into our heart, I think the only real choice is Aemon the Humble. But as I said, I do not want to decide this on my own. You guys will get to decide this. If you are a member of the Council of the Most Devout, then you can just let me know in the comment section exactly who you think should be our king and who we will pledge our allegiance to, if it's one of the existing factions, or if we were to crown Aemon the Humble as king of the Seven Kingdoms. And if you are not a member of the Council of the Most Devout, you can still tell me of who you think should be the king. And there's also going to be a straw poll popping up here where you can choose your favorite candidate. And the one that gets the most votes will be represented by Septa, Unella, and the Council of the Most Devout. So just as a quick mention here, we currently have seven votes that count, right? We have the vote of the High Sparrow that is already set for Aemon Targaryen. Then we've got the vote of Septa, Unella, which will be decided by all of you and by basically the result of the straw poll. And then we have 5 independent votes that will be, chosen depending on what the respective characters say. So I think this is a pretty important decision. That's why I talked about it so long. If you have any questions, you can obviously leave them in the comment section as well. There's not going to be any further gameplay today because we gotta settle this before we do anything else. Just a few things I want to mention here. If we decide to become independent, we will have to declare war on the Stormland and the Reach. That is going to happen immediately because we then officially reject the possibility of Renly Baratheon being a king. Right now, we haven't really pledged to him, but since we're fighting the same enemies, we just kind of, we were just kind of letting him be. But if we decide that Aemon is going to be king, we'll have to declare war on them, and we'll also have to declare war on Dorne and House Targaryen. So we're basically going to be at war with everyone except for the sisters and the Vale, and I guess the Free Folk. We do not need to deal with the Free Folk just yet. So yeah, that's just something that I wanted to tell you. But yeah, I guess I'll end this here. Please let me know what you think. Who should be our king? I'm very much interested to see what you have to say. Also, if you have any arguments that I have potentially missed, then please let me know as well. And yeah, we'll see. In next episode, we will have our king one way or another.